Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's On at DisneyPlus.com. It's time for our weekly live Q&A. So big hello and welcome to everybody in the live chat. So I can see in here we've got Keenan, Sasuna, Khaled, Bubba Trolling. So big hello to all of you. And I'm back again. We had a break last week due to Easter. And also now clock should have been all aligned because daylight savings is kicked in here in the UK. For some reason, it's always a little bit funny. So this week, each and every time, I jump through some questions that we have been sent in advance by our Patreon and our YouTube channel members. You can also put in questions as well through super chat function. You can gift memberships. That is something that seems to be becoming very popular on lots of live channels and stuff. So if you fancy doing that, that would be fantastic. And basically that means that someone who is watching and regularly contributing, they might get a chance to become a member and join in on the Q&A, or you can just become one. All of it helps because, well, over the last year or so, there has been massive changes within how websites and stuff. It's just got a lot harder with advertising and stuff. So your support really makes a massive difference each and every month. So a big thank you to everyone for that one. If you are a Patreon and a YouTube channel member as well, check out this week's exclusive video where I talk about what I've been watching on Disney Plus. So I'm trying to do an exclusive video each and every week for our Patrons and YouTube channel members as well. So apparently Kaylee said it's 2 p.m. now Eastern time. So that's cool. So that's good. So you can see we've got Chris in here and you can hear me, which is good. Steve, aloha, and Ricardo. So what I tend to do is I jump in and out a bit between the live chat and the pre-done questions. Also just a big sort of, I'm not really a shout out, but obviously Bubba Trolling, who just said that his dog passed away yesterday, which is our hearts go out to you. I don't want to get in, otherwise I'll start crying, because anytime I know what I'm like with my dogs and stuff, but yeah, heart goes out to you on this one. But yeah, just anyone that's got a dog and knows what that feeling is like, we totally get it. So yeah, just take your time. Just remember it. There's no easy way of doing it, but yeah, definitely thoughts are with you. Like I said, I don't want to go in, otherwise I'll get going, because dogs just, I can watch a movie, something happens with a dog, humans can get slaughtered in thousands on a movie and it wouldn't affect me, but something happens with a dog and I'm gone. Right, let's jump into some of the questions. I know there's a few about WrestleMania. I will go into that a little bit. We'll do our couple of questions first off before getting to WrestleMania, because it is WrestleMania weekends. Connor says, do you think Disney are doing the right thing by licensing older shows and cancelled originals to the likes of ITV, UK TV, and the BBC? So if you're unaware, here in the UK, the BBC has recently picked up La Victor. Channel 3 has picked up Extraordinary and Under the Banner of Heaven. This past week, it was announced that Alaska Daily and also The Company You Keep, both of which have been cancelled and removed from Disney Plus, are going to be going to a television channel. They've also licensed A New Light, a Small Light. And Channel 4 has also picked up like Abbott Elementary and stuff. Now, a lot of these, they're not necessarily leaving Disney Plus. This is just additional revenue that they are making from licensing. There's a poll as well going up as well. But there's definitely a thing with licensing this stuff out. And I don't think there's a problem with this, especially if you've got like a 2-year-old show. It's kind of already done most of the heavy lifting for Disney at that point. It's not going to get any more subscribers in. It's not really going to make a huge amount of difference, especially if you put it out non-exclusive. So if you put Extraordinary out on ITV, and I'll be honest, ITVX has been promoting Under the Banner of Heaven and Extraordinary much more than Disney ever did, which I think definitely shows the power of having a linear channel. And they are constantly advertising those shows, which I think for like Extraordinary might help get people in on a second season. So I do think this is a very interesting thing, and I think it's good for Disney to do this. I don't see any downside to it. This whole idea of wall gardening off like your content so that it doesn't go anywhere else. Yeah, that makes sense for your cornerstone shows. I wouldn't expect like WandaVision or The Mandalorian to start popping up on ITV or or on, another channel in the US. I mean, I think they could put it on ABC, etc., but their own stuff. But yeah, you don't want to be putting out your key stuff. But a lot of these things from like 20th century television and so on, they're kind of non-generic. They can kind of go out there and stuff. And if it brings in extra money, and I'd rather they were put out to make a little bit more money and they keep the show going and it keeps, and it gets more. To me, it just feels like a win-win-win. But let us know. What do you think about that there? Let's see. I'll just see if there was anyone there about. So Caleb put in there to answer the question, but with certain conditions, it's fine to sub-license content that's not exactly core to Disney and streaming rights to share. I think that's the key thing. So it's shared, so we don't lose it from Disney. I think that stings the worst. Is if you are paying for something and they take it away and they put it onto somewhere else. It's like, yeah, you're not doing it for me, you're doing it for you, and that's kind of it. But I think if it's non-exclusive, and especially if they're putting it out on like free to air, so if they would have put something onto Pluto TV or something like that, I think that's a very different zone than that. But I think that's pretty good. Matt says, what are your thoughts on the new Mandalorian movie? We obviously don't know much about it other than Mandalorian and Grogu, New Adventures. I'll be honest, I'm still a little bit like, I would just like to see Mandalorian season 4, because that way I get, a new season and I get 8 episodes. But having seen an episode of Star Wars Mandalorian, actually, I think we ended up seeing some episodes on the big screen at Star Wars Celebration last year. I definitely can see the benefit of watching them on the big screen. And I've actually I've been to a few screenings of some shows like the Marvel and some other things on big screens, and the quality's there, and I think it's there. But I think they're looking at these kind of things of, they want to get back to movies, they want to be making money, and Mandalorian, there's something there that they can kind of do a one-off story. Maybe it's helped set up something else, but yeah, I think Mandalorian is a big enough character now to have his own movie. And I feel we're going into a new era for Disney Plus, especially with the launch of Hulu on Disney Plus, where it's going to become much less needed to have Star Wars and Marvel when you've got all this other content coming in. Because I think we're really going to start seeing that revving up. I mean, at the minute, I'd definitely say in the US, you could kind of go, well, why am I having Disney Plus? And I'm paying and I'm hardly getting anything on that. I think you've got to start flicking it the other way. I'm paying for Hulu, and then I get the Disney Plus for like $2 a month. That's the way to rationalize it. I think if you look at it that way, it doesn't feel quite so bad, even though you could do it the other way around. But if you're paying for both, you're really getting now the full suite. And I think this is what we're really going to start seeing in. But I think it's going to be good. I think Mandalorian looks great. Babak says, what do you like about the new Hulu on Disney Plus, and what do you hope gets changed in the next update? I think at the minute it was a bit underwhelming with the idea that it didn't have as much newness as I was hoping for. It didn't really introduce a lot of newness internationally. It still looks very much, my Disney Plus here in the UK pretty much looks the same. There's been no difference. And I was hoping we were going to get a little bit more of a global update that would give us something new, because it just hasn't. There's no new collections, there's no new functionality, there's no new hubs, there's no subcop. There's just been not. I mean, I'm hoping what will happen now is, now that it's on there, that they can start adding in this stuff a little bit easier. Maybe when they've done a full merge or something, we can start getting like characters like Family Guy and Futurama as maybe they can have collections and avatars. And I do like some of the things that we're seeing on the US Hulu, or when you log into Disney Plus. I'm liking the banners have slightly changed on the top, which are like longer, which kind of show. I think that looks a little bit better. I would love them to do what they're doing in Australia, where they have the new this week, and you can see just all the new stuff, that's just the new episodes, so you don't get a little bit confused. I do like that, and I wish they'd put that in somewhere else. But now they've done it. Now they can start putting more effort in and start making little changes and I'm hoping now that we start seeing things like that. Tim says, what are your thoughts on Roman Reigns and The Rock winning the main event under Bloodline rules? I mean, I wouldn't know anything about it. So I'll be honest, I thought it was a great main event. It was a lot longer. I didn't think The Rock was going to go as long as about 45 minutes. I mean, I had pretty much guessed that they were going to win, because otherwise it would have been a really boring main event for night 2 tonight. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was The Rock really he didn't look like he looked in really good condition. He was doing really well. Yeah, I thought it was a great one. And I think it's also going to help set up Damian Priest winning with Money in the Bank as well. Let's see what we've got here. Matt says, what Disney Plus takeaway collections like sci-fi and comedy and add-on? I think by the looks of it, what they've actually done is I think it's more in the US, because I don't think we lost all of them here in the UK. We did lose a few of them. I think some of the stuff just got. I don't know if they're maybe going to do some new collections or something like that. It does seem a bit odd that we lost some stuff, but hopefully now it's launched and it's out there, that they can start cleaning up and doing little tweaks, little changes much easier. Because obviously they got the launch of Hulu, of ESPN on Disney Plus next year. They've got the merging in Star Plus in Latin America. They've probably got to get that sorted as well. I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's some changes maybe in some of the Hotstar countries like Indonesia and that aren't part of the India side of things. They might, I wouldn't be surprised if they get a rebrand, because they haven't gone to green yet. They're still blue, which is strange. Keenan says, what's next for Disney since Hulu and Disney Plus are now all in one app? Well, there's still a lot to do. There's a lot of stuff that they need to do. There's still a lot of things I think that they need to sort out, fix, and get things sorted. There's a lot of little tweaks I think that they need to make Disney Plus better. What I would like them to do now is just they can focus on just doing small little incremental updates and just start doing it now. And I think that's a lot easier with it all in one. Obviously, I would imagine at some point in the future, they are going to merge Disney Plus and Hulu officially, so that we have the one app and everything, so they can access Disney Plus with Hulu, with ESPN, all in that one app. Keep things simplified. Whether or not Hulu Live TV continues on as its own separate app, but I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. I can't see how what they have started today. This is not a good long-term thing? It's extra complicated, extra hassle, and I think one price. Bob Iger has spoken this week about consolidation and changes, and how Disney Plus needs the Hulu content for engagement. I think, and he said they know what they need to do. They've just got to get there. So I think there's a lot of things there. Let's jump into the live chat. Let's see what we've got here going on. Hello to Ryan. Muppet Don says, do you think the US model of Hulu as an add-on is better or worse than the international one, and forcing you to pay for it even if you don't want it? No, I think the international version is the best way of doing it. We had the price rise of like $2 a month extra, £2 a month extra when they did it, which I think made sense, and the fact that you could justify a big price rise because they had just doubled the size of it. I know when people go back and go, well, it was this much 4 years ago. It's like, yeah, but you could look at most things. You could buy, milk used to be £1. Now, I think today I went to buy it, like £1.55 for 4 pints. Prices have just continued to go up and up and up. I think a simple plan, we have different tiers, and I think it's just easier at the minute, Hulu is so complicated with the amount of tiers and bundles and add-ons, and I think it's too much. I think it's just too much. Keenan says Lilo Stitch should come out in summer. Why haven't we got a trailer for it yet? No, there was a thing on our Facebook group today. I think Zachary asked about it. At the end of the day, Disney has not officially given us anything for Lilo and Stitch, the live action one. They have not put out any press releases. There's no social media. They have not mentioned it officially at all. So it can't be late because it hasn't been announced. They haven't done anything for it. Now, obviously, this summer would make a lot of sense, but they could bump this back to next year and put it in cinemas. They might be wanting to spend some more time doing the special effects. Obviously, they got impacted with the strikes and stuff. We can't complain that it's been delayed or it's late because we don't actually officially have any information on it. yeah, we know it's been filmed and we know it got hit by the delays and we know who's in it, unofficially because of the trades and stuff like that. But officially, they have not announced any information about it, and I think we've just got to wait. While I think the idea of it coming out this summer sounds good, if the special effects on Stitch aren't good enough yet, or they think they need to leave it till next summer, go for it. If they think they're going to put it in cinemas next summer or something like that, fine. At the end of the day, they're moving and delaying stuff all the time. They've not officially announced anything, so therefore delaying it doesn't really matter, I think, on this one. Kelly says, since we got a sad night on it, yeah, I think we're going to get I think that, well, I would say so. I definitely think so. And as Aaliyah says, Lilo and Stitch was a theatrical, was only a rumor. Yeah, officially, we have got no information on that at all. Bubba John says, I need to update the technology. The Mandalorian must be a TV show set up as, must be the first TV show to set up as a movie. Could we see more Star Wars? There was this other show that started with Star that also went from TV to movies. You know, little Star Trek. You know, that started as a TV series before it became a movie. Star Wars, the Next Generation was it? I think Firefly was it? The Simpsons. Lots and lots of series have actually led on to becoming movies. The X-Files, that's one. South Park. I'm trying to think what other ones we've had. There's been quite a few. There's been a lot over the years. Bob's Burgers, that was a recent one. I think MASH was MASH one. Yeah, I think that one was one. There has actually been a lot. They don't always work very well. Sometimes they kind of get a little bit carried. Even Mrs. Brown Boy's got a movie, Borat, and now we've got Ali G. There's lots of them over the years that have actually gone from being a TV series to movie. It does happen a lot. I wouldn't say most of them have been huge successes, but they have had some success with it. Aaliyah says, appears Disney changed their mind about being theatrical and instead will it be exclusive? Do you know what? Again, we don't know nout on this one. They could have held it back. We don't know what they're doing with Lilo and Stitch. They could have bumped it back a whole year, and then wouldn't like to say. I think we just need to hold our horses on that one. Ricardo says, until now, I haven't heard any news on Latin America about licensing Disney content in other platforms. It could help ease the company didn't premiere on Star Plus despite having Spanish dubs. I think there's a couple of things for that. I think they need to sort out what they're doing first off with Disney Plus before they can start licensing stuff. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. I think there's also some issue with shows like that, where maybe they've launched it, and sometimes, like in Latin America and in Europe, etc., we don't get the shows always at the same time. And I would imagine that if they say they were like, right, you're going to get all of them internationally after the entire series is aired on ABC, kind of thing, because they do that a lot, so we can get all the dubbing and the subtitles and stuff done. And like 2 weeks into the show airing, they go, this thing is stinking. This thing is not pulling any viewers in. It's not working. We're going to be canceling it. We're not going to be continuing on. It's not working. At which point, I could very easily see they just cancel all work that they're currently working on, subtitles and dubs, etc., and the entire thing gets just canned, just to save them more money. Steve says, what do you expect Disney will show or announce at this week's CinemaCon? Yeah, so I think this CinemaCon, they have got a presentation. I would suspect they're going to be very much focused on this year's big summer hits. So Deadpool and Wolverine, and also what else have we got? We got Planet of the Kingdom, or the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Inside Out 2, and maybe a few Searchlight Pictures films or something like that. I think that's going to be it. There's probably going to be some trailers and stuff for us. Whether or not we get a trailer for anything else like later this year, I don't know. But I think they're primarily just going to be focused on the big summer movies. I think that will be the key thing here. Steve also said, what are your thoughts on the Disney's theatrical 2026? Do you think they need to space out some of the releases in 2026? I'm just going to bring up Disney theatrical releases. I'm just going to have a quick look at the new. I know they've recently put some out, and let's see what we've got. Just so I can have a look at the information in a minute. So, what's the list? Is this Disney movie releases? Let's try it the other way around. Why is it no one can give me? Here we go. Hollywood. Trying to find the list, because I know they put. I think pushing back. Was it Moana made a lot of sense. I think that made a lot more sense for them to do. Again, that didn't have the list either. Sorry, can't find the lists, but not entirely sure what the full release is. But I think on a whole, I think I'm still surprised we're getting 4 Marvel movies next year and going into 2026. Obviously, we're getting a bit more, I think, like with Toy Story, Moana. They've got to be careful. They've got to, I think trying to repeat 2019 with too many major franchises that are established, on one hand, could be good. But on the other hand, it could open up that same problem of like just feeling a bit samey and people being franchised out. I think they need to mix it up a little bit more with everything. Let's see what else we've got. Keenan says, did you watch the WrestleMania X1 night yet? Yes, I did. So I watched it all this morning. I was watching the kickoff show until about 11:30 last night, and it was just about to start. Like, no, you need to go to bed, otherwise you're going to be up. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law were at WrestleMania last night. They'll be there again tonight. So they were there in person, luckies. Yeah, I thought it was good. I enjoyed it this morning. I was surprised Gunther lost. I thought he was going to maintain, but the way they were playing on it, I was like, they're really laying this on. Wasn't so keen on the Usos match. Thought that was a bit weird. I enjoyed the tag match. Yeah, I thought it was a good solid one. So Suna says, when do you think Percy Jackson season 2 will come out? I'm gonna guess next year. I'm gonna imagine maybe spring next year. I mean, I think maybe if they get filming, I can't see how they can get it filmed and wrapped for this year. We've heard nothing about them. I know they've been working on scripts and stuff, but I don't necessarily feel that they can get it filmed and wrapped in time to get it out for Christmas this year. I think we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer. But I'm hoping that what they might do is get starting on 2 and move straight into moving. Don't wait anymore. Just get straight into doing 3 straight away, and then they can get. I think that's what they need to do on this one. Right, let's jump into some other pre-done questions. Let's see what we've got here. Right, let's just find out where I was. Oh, here we go. So Keenan says, could we see a beta version of ESPN Plus on Disney Plus, just like Hulu on Disney Plus? I don't think so, because I think this is going to be a bigger launch. And also, I think by the time that ESPN Plus launches, or the new version of ESPN, because it's going to be a whole new version, we're going to be much more used to it, especially in the US. You're going to be much more used to how it works. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they also are going to use the Latin American launch of it being incorporated. They can do a lot of testing and stuff, maybe there, maybe even do the same thing here in Europe and kind of trial it out a little bit beforehand. Because I always find this thing a little bit like with Hulu on Disney Plus being in beta, and I'm like, yeah, it was called Star. For 2 years, you did the beta, it worked. So there wasn't a lot of extra stuff there. Mamo says, what is your opinion on the marketing of Hulu on Disney Plus in terms of videos and posters? Well, I don't feel like we've really got into it yet. Obviously, with Easter last week, there wasn't a lot of promotion. Disney, in fact, only held the launch party on Friday night. Had all the photographs. No, was it? Yeah, literally had all the photographs yesterday that they came through for. So they only had the launch party yesterday. So I don't feel like we've really got into. They've been doing some little clip trailer things, but I don't think we've got into that point now where any of the new marketing particularly says Hulu on Disney Plus, or any of the trailers are, or any of the. It still feels like we've not got there yet. But I've been liking all the posters and stuff I've been seeing of like Family Guy with his like Peter with his head sticking out of a hole and kind of and taking Mick out of like Oana means family. And I think there was another one. There's been some different advertising and stuff like that, which is kind of fun to see. So like stuff we've been getting like here in the UK for a while of like playing on it. Disney Plus is running an ad here in the UK at the minute, which is quite risky actually. It's got like Kardashians, Alien Free, Pam and Tommy, The Bear, Shogun, and it's all very much kind of like, ooh, this stuff. I'm poor things, and like I'm gonna go punch a baby, and yeah, it's a bit of a funky one. Man says now that Disney Plus and Hulu are added on the full version, what changes like to see happen? Personally, much easier to see what's new each day of like new episodes, a bit more of a not just new to but like new episodes to kind of highlight that a little bit more. So if you see Jimmy Kimmel or if you see the, like Good Doctor and it pops up in that line, that that there's just been a new episode ad and it's just that. Because I think when you look at the new on, it looks it. I'd like them to add a leaving soon section or a little leaving soon, or even just highlight in yellow when something's leaving, because I think that's very bad with how the Hulu on Disney Plus now has just drastically increased the amount of content which will leave. You've got shows and episodes leaving daily now, essentially, because of like shows like Good Morning America and Jimmy Kimmel. They only live on Disney Plus for a limited time. There's stuff being licensed just for a month or so and it disappears. I think they drastically need to improve how they are doing that. When it was just the odd 1 or 2 movies a month, okay, I could give you a little bit of a pass that, maybe, it wasn't the biggest thing of all. But if you've got a list, yeah, it needs to be a bit more made aware. My man says, what do you think of the yeah, I think it's definitely a case of them wanting to replicate it. Elias says, when will the Hulu standalone be phased out? It's only available as a tile within Disney Plus. So obviously, officially, they're still very much in the line of no, Hulu is still going to be its own separate thing, and we're still going to carry on as we always are. And it's like, yeah, we've heard this kind of thing happen before with every other one that's happened like this, where, oh yeah, we're not planning on it, and we aren't going to do it yet because we're still, still trying to sort out the last bit. I think until they finalize the thing with Comcast and get that sorted, but also, it makes a lot of sense to maybe do this for 9 months, a year, 2 years even, to kind of, so when they eventually do it, so if they turn around, say they turn around next Easter and they go, right, okay, so from April the 1st, well, not April the 1st, but from May the 1st of 2025, we're going to do this and we're going to merge it in. Most people, like who have already got access to it, are going to be like, yeah, well, that makes sense. Well, yeah, I'm surprised it isn't there. It's going to get to the point where it will be much softer, and people will be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Whereas if they did that first, it would have been a much bigger, like they're doing it very slowly to get people used to the concept that there's something actually else happening. Tim says, will the Bon Jovi story be released on Disney Plus Australia this month, as they've released a trailer for it, but it's not on the list? To be honest, I haven't even got a list yet for Australia. I don't know what's coming in. Normally I get it. I mean, normally we get it late, but I've not even had the list yet, and we're a week into April. So yeah. So I don't know quite what's going on that one. Babak says, given how many characters Disney owns, why don't they have a profile avatars to choose from? Will they start adding some from 20th FX and Searchlight? My pure speculative guess was the profile settings were universal. And I don't think they've got the setting in place where they could add, like, say they can't add Family Guy in there, because if they added it in the UK, they couldn't, like, I'm guessing they weren't in a position to only have it in one country. And so therefore it had to go out everywhere. And so putting in like Futurama or something like that in there becomes becomes difficult. And also they can't maybe do it right now as well, because there's some Disney Plus subscribers that have Hulu that wouldn't necessarily be appropriate. I think there's a bit of something there. Right, let's see what we've got with the live questions. Let's see what we've got here. Right, Ricardo says, hi, I just got Hulu on Disney Plus, and sadly it's not what I expected. Only the main logo is green, but for some reason the whole interface is blue, and the Hulu content is not on the Disney Plus system. Yeah, so it depends on how you're accessing it. If you're it does seem to me if you're accessing it through a website, it doesn't seem to be as transformative as it was on your app. It's still much more green in terms of how it looks. But essentially, it is just a hub. That's all it is. That and obviously the logo when you fire up Disney Plus is great. Is like this new greeny thing. And again, not all content from Hulu is on Disney Plus. That it's only a select content. The licensed stuff is still not there. Steve says, "What did you think of the trailer for Star Wars: The Acolyte?" I thought it looked good. I thought that looked really nice. I thought that one looked really good. I'm just going to go down here. Kaylee says, I remember when Hulu launched as a Netflix competitor. However, it couldn't be a true competitor when it was owned by a consortium, unlike Disney, which would live on through Hulu, Disney Plus. Yeah, I think the trouble is Hulu kind of they were all like, we've got to compete with Netflix, but we don't really want to commit to it because linear is still where we're making the money. And I think the linear money is like gone down, and now it's like they've had to kind of get the streaming up to it. I just feel like Disney, I think the biggest problem was trying to run two simultaneous services, and with the idea of like, this is for this and this is for this. And every other platform was hitting for everybody, and Disney Plus was still in the US, still just for kids. And yeah, it was suffering. And they couldn't afford, and I don't think essentially they couldn't keep just chucking on Marvel and Star Wars to fix the problem, because everything that they were making for like Hulu, like if they were putting like Only Murders in the Building and The Bear on the Disney Plus instead of the Hulu, you'd be like, Hulu's like, well, we need it was such a mess of how it all worked. Chris says, I just do not know why Disney does not let us have a leaving soon section. Yeah, it's really weird how they have got that. A big thank you to Derek. Thank you so much for your super chat. Thank you so much. He says, I just learned about a potential merger with Disney and Apple resurface, and this is what I've learned. What are your opinions on it? Right. So this comes up constantly. This is constantly coming up with like Apple and Disney. First off, Apple has never actually done an acquisition of that big. I think the biggest it did was Beats, but generally it picks up small little companies. It doesn't go for big stuff. And the other big problem as well is I do not think Apple could buy out Disney. Not necessarily. I think they've got enough money to do it. The problem is I don't think legally, I think most governments would have a major problem with this being a thing, because you've suddenly then got Apple have got access to a news networks. They would have too much control, too much power over entertainment and everything. And I think there would be a massive issues just to do that, really. And this keeps going around essentially because Apple is about the only people that actually have enough money to do it. But they're not in the position of doing it. And let's be honest, they could pick up other brands if they want to boost up Apple TV Plus. They could pick up someone like Paramount or Warner Brothers much cheaper than Disney. But I think most of this again is just people speculating, and a lot of it is clickbait to get you to click on it to get some money from their point of view. But yeah, I don't believe any of it. I just think legislation just would never allow them to get that one through. And Steve just put one here. There was a rumor of Elon Musk buying Disney. This is again all over, especially all over Twitter. Like on April Fools, he joked about becoming employee. There's this big thing of, especially people that are disheartened with Disney right now, think that having somebody come in and buy it or get rid of Bob Iger, like we had the whole thing with Peltz or Elon or Apple, that suddenly they're going to come in and they're just going to go fix everything. And when you say fix everything, essentially turn the clock back 20-30 years to what Disney used to be and expect it to survive in the 21st century. And ultimately Disney has to compete with other companies. It can't be what it was back in the 60s. No company is what it was like in the 60s. None of them are. And I think Disney seems to get like quite often like put on a pedestal, but also get held to a different standard to every other. It was funny. I was watching Squawk Box the other day, and they were talking about how Disney is reliant on franchises, and they talked about how they were just churning out the franchises, and then they turned around and were like, not like the other studios are doing with Dune and Wonka and like Mission Pop, and they were sort of they gave out like a list of all these, and I'm like Barbie, and I'm like, they're all franchises. You've just named franchises from other companies. They're all doing the exact same thing Disney does, but they seem to get away with it. So yeah. Yeah. Chris says Apple buying Disney is like McDonald's buying Burger King. I think it's not necessarily like McDonald's buying Burger King. It would almost it's in some ways, it's again, it would never get through legislation. It would just never be allowed now. Right, let's see some of it. Let's have a look, see what else we've got here. Again, big thank you to Derek for that support. Really means a lot. I mean, it really does and it really does help a lot. Just seeing where we were with the live questions. Mappador says, didn't they announce Werewolf by Night and then drop a trailer like 2 weeks before it dropped on Disney Plus? Yes, they have done this a lot, where they do no promotion and they leave everything to the last minute. And this could happen. Lilo and Stitch could come out in a month's time, and they could start the promotion a couple of weeks before, because essentially, if it's going straight to Disney Plus, they don't want to promote it too much. They don't want to spend a lot of money on it. So yeah, they have done this in the past. Werewolf by Night, we knew it had been filmed, wrapped, edited, and like we were just waiting for that date, and it was quite late. Wonder Man, we know they've been filming Wonder Man. Officially, they've never announced a single thing for it. So they do this where they just will make stuff and not actually tell us. So it's not uncommon for them to do. Baba says, do you think that Disney Plus will add ESPN Plus when the new streaming service? I think ESPN Plus will become incorporated into the new version of ESPN, which will be through, again, as ESPN on Disney Plus. I think they might drop the plus, maybe. Ricardo says, there is definitely a chance that Hulu could launch internationally as part of Disney Plus. Disney Plus CEO in Turkey apparently commented a while ago that he was looking forward to the launch of Hulu in this country. I am very much in the mindset that I believe that the Hulu hub or the Star Hub internationally will be rebranded to Hulu at some point. I don't know when, I don't know how, or anything, and it's just a pure guess. It might never happen, but I think it's going to happen. The fact that Disney Plus went green around the world, or teal, says to me that was very much a case of, we're getting ready, we've gone green, we're changing stuff. So it makes sense from the point of view, why have we all gone green if they were only doing it in one country? There's the other issue. When you say, for example, The Bear is coming to Hulu on Disney Plus, or the Kardashians are coming to Hulu on Disney, or Hulu on Disney Plus, and Disney Plus internationally, what's going to be easier for them to do is when they start launching a campaign and they can just go, the Kardashians is on Hulu on Disney Plus. And that simple thing there will mean the same globally. Suddenly then they do not need to be making different trailers or different posters. It makes everything far easier and cheaper from the production, from like marketing points of view. Less confusion of like what Star, I still see people kind of saying, well, Star Plus is this, well, then you've got Stars Play, but what about Stars? And then you've got Star. It's like some Hot Star, but all these different. But if you can consolidate, it will make so much more sense, and it becomes a brand. Hulu doesn't mean anything internationally, but Star is just so generic; it doesn't mean anything either. I think it is going to happen. I think there are some other issues with India, with that. Now, I do believe in Turkey there's actually a slightly different issue in the fact that there isn't actually a Star Hub. It's just called like Other. because there's a Star channel already existed that Disney couldn't get the access to the right of the name. So it makes more sense to put it in Turkey than anywhere else because they don't even have the Star Hub. It's just other. So that's definitely one. Keenan says, I meant the first TV series or something. Yeah, I get what you mean. Get what you mean now. Yeah, Muppet Dawn said Shaun the Sheep. That was turned into it. The A-Team, yeah. I love Mrs. Brown Boys. I do as well. I really enjoy it. I think it's great. And I know a lot of people do not like Mrs. Brown Boys, but I think it's very funny. I don't think it's as funny now as it used to be. I think when the first few seasons were good. I do probably about 10 years ago, we went to see him live, and it was a fun night out. So Suna says, when do you think Modern Family will be on Disney Plus in the US? I wish I knew. I wish I do. I definitely feel like it's one of the big shows that's missing from Hulu on Disney Plus because, it's just trending. It's like the number 1 or number 2 show constantly here in the UK. It's just, again, it looks like it's locked in to it. Aaliyah says, I believe their presentation is on the 11th, I believe. I think it's definitely coming out. CinemaCon is always a little bit weird because it's aimed at cinema sort of owners and cinema staff and stuff. It's not really for us as consumers. We've become more aware of it because of things, and there could be trailers and stuff, and there'll be like early critic reviews and stuff. And I know some critics kind of feel like CinemaCon is better for them than like San Diego Comic-Con because it's essentially it's all business and press. There's like, and it's so expensive to go. I believe it's like $1,000 a ticket or so. It's really expensive to go, so therefore it doesn't have the same crowds, and it's not for that purpose. So hopefully we get a little bit of information. So Suna says, I finished reading Percy Jackson the Lightning Thief yesterday and loved it. I would like to watch the movie next. I mean, a lot of people I feel like didn't like the movie because they read the book. I was in a bookstore yesterday. I was looking at some different books that I to maybe got for when I got holiday next month, and yeah, I did pick up the Percy Jackson. I was just looking at the books and stuff, and it was a bit like what? It's like it was pretty novel. I was in the kids section, like Harry Potter, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Percy Jackson, and there was and a few other ones. I'm going, why is it I know all of this stuff in the kids section of the books, but in the adult fiction section, I'm looking at all these just books. And I'm going, I don't know what any of this is. It's like at least it was the kind of thing of like, well, I know what that is. Chris says, I watched Wish yesterday and glad I waited to watch it on Disney Plus. It was good, but not theater going good for me. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but I didn't go see it at the cinema either. I watched it when it came out on digital. Muppet Don says, I think Blade will get pushed to 2026, but rumors are saying Spidey will be out in 2025. So there's still, I mean, at the minute, the schedule they put out over this week still had Blade on the docket. I think it's going to get bumped. If they don't, if it feels a little bit like you're going to have to stop. I still feel 4 movies a year is just too much. Steve says, when will Family Guy get new episodes in the UK? I thought we would get April. Let me just have a. I thought we were getting them already. Let me just look. I'm just gonna have a quick look because I thought we were already underway on this one. Oh, 10th of April. 10th of April, we're getting new part 2, season 22 is starting on the 10th of April. Hopefully that answers your question, Steve. I knew I'd seen it. Ricardo says 2 days ago, the 4 Bleach movies were added to Apple TV for Latin America. Funny Disney didn't have an agreement to add this. Yeah, I think as well with these kind of things, often they're just picking up what they can and maybe picking up newer stuff. I think going back and picking up old movies is very difficult. So Suna says, when do you think Percy Jackson's show will end? They said it will have 5 seasons based on books. If they can knock out 1 a year, well, then you can add what? 2025, 2026, 27, 28. So I think your 28, 2029 is probably where I'd put that within line. Kayla says they definitely had to alter it due to Hollywood strikes, and that's the thing as well. They're all growing up, and they're going to have to get them going up. Matt says, what do you think of ABC renewing Grey's Anatomy and Station 19? So Station 19 hasn't been renewed. It's still coming to an end at the end of this season. That hasn't been renewed. 911 has been renewed, and Grey's Anatomy has. I'm watching Grey's Anatomy. I've just started watching the new season of Grey's Anatomy this last week. I still enjoyed the show. I fell off of Station 19. I just didn't like. I just got bored of it. But I've been watching Grey's Anatomy for 20 years now, so I'm happy it's carrying on. But I do think it could do with a bit of. I don't think the new characters that they've introduced are like interesting enough. I think they could do with some new characters and stuff, and a bit of new life. So soon as says, Kate, when do you show will end? Because each season is each. Yeah, so I think you're right for that one there. Kelly said the one ad I saw on Disney Plus was Gumball on CNN on Hulu and Disney Plus on that Gumball show. When I did the trending, when I looked at what was trending this morning, because I do that every Sunday morning, it's like the second or third most watched show is that Gumball thing, and I've never even heard of it. So I need to see a little bit more information on that one. More permanent coming soon section. I think they need to start doing a bit more with that because of the Hulu side. To allow, it's best not to rush things. Let time to fully transfer things. Yeah, it's still definitely taking a long time. So yeah, and good. Babatronic says, do you think Disney Plus will rename the Disney Plus Hotstar to Disney Plus and the Hulu Hub? They'll be dumping that Hotstar logo. That Hotstar brand is not going international. That's definitely not going to be going outside of India. I think you are going to see. I wouldn't be surprised if Hotstar remains in like India and maybe in like Indonesia, some of the countries where they still have Disney Plus Hotstar separately. That might just become Disney Plus. But yeah, I'm not expecting. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a Hulu hub in the new streaming service with Gilo Cinema and stuff. I definitely think that could come in. Right, let's jump in and see some of the questions as well. Keenan says, I've seen on my Max account that's changed from News Beta to CNN Max Beta. What does this mean? Is this like the Hulu version of Disney Plus where CNN and Max could merge? I think they're basically, you are seeing now CNN is now going to be incorporated more and more into Max. Warner Brothers are going all in a little bit on Max with adding in like sports with Bleacher Sport. They ideally, I think, want to upcharge, but even they know that they need to utilize all of their brands to get you to say subscribed. They need sports, they need news, and you know, if I had CNN, yeah, I'd want to be. The idea of trying to get you to pay for CNN Plus was ridiculous. It was such an idea of like this thing of like, how many subscriptions will you pay for? Now, I don't know about you, but I've just done a second sweep of subscriptions myself in the last week where I've just gone through and been like, right, what do I need? What do I not need? Do I want to keep that? Do I not want to keep this one? And then, you know, you go onto all these different websites and all these different channels and different apps and stuff, and they what's only $4.99 and $5.99 and $10.99 and $9.99. And you can look at it and go, you could be spending $150 a month on all these different subscriptions. And you have to, at some point, you can only spend so much money. And I would encourage anyone to be doing it regularly, of going through your account, going through your bank, seeing what you're paying for, seeing what you've got on auto renew. Are you using it? Do you need it? Are you still using it? If not, dump it, get rid of it. There's so many streaming services, and it's not just the streaming services. Are you using your Marvel Are you using your Marvel Unlimited? Are you using your DC Comics things? Your Warhammer subscription? Are you using, I don't know, your gym membership? Are you using, some app that you use for artwork, or I don't know, Chat GPT if you pay for that thing? There's lots of different things that you could be paying out monthly for. And I think everyone's like looking at where they can cut costs and consolidate. And I think that there's only so many streaming services you'll have. Right now, I have Disney Plus, and I have Netflix, and I have Paramount Plus. My Apple TV subscription is running out in a week, and I liked a lot of stuff on there, but I cannot justify it at £10 a month or whatever it is. I don't think there's enough stuff on there to warrant that per month. I think it's really good at $4.99. I probably would have carried on, but the price rises are going in. I think even my WWE one, I'm after WrestleMania, I'm thinking, well, I've only got really like 6 months, and next year it's all going to go onto Netflix. So, but it's like I'm only really watching the pay-per-view NXT. I've tried watching NXT the last few weeks, and it's like, no. Aaliyah says, when will those with Disney Plus only see a Hulu tile? When they click on it, it teases them to upgrade or allow a preview, much like Apple TV. So I did try and do a little bit of looking into this for you, because so I tried logging in like with my UK account, and because that way that doesn't have Hulu, and it said, it would ask me, do you want, you're traveling, and it wouldn't show me the Hulu hub. So this is a question for everyone really. If you don't have Hulu, can you see the Hulu hub? I'd love to know that a question, because my experience was it didn't come up when I logged in, and then if I'd say, for example, look for Shogun, it would come up and it would say you can upgrade to it, and there's a little upgrade button, and if you clicked on it, it says, oh, this account is not eligible to upgrade, because obviously it's an international account. But my US account, I have Hulu, so therefore I see it. So yeah, it was a bit like I couldn't replicate it. And I'm not starting another subscription. That's like that. So already got two. So yeah, so and I don't think nobody needs 2 subscriptions to Disney Plus. It's just me. Unless you're paying for your parents or something like that, I'd maybe do that. So Sina says, when do you think? Oh, we did that one. Elliot says, do you think Hulu on Disney Plus will add more features like the leaving scene section over time, or will the features be added all at once? I think now that they've launched it, now they can start rolling out small incremental things much easier. I would say the pressure is off from the point of view that it's there. Now they can start like, okay, we've got feature A, B, C, and D, and we can roll out, if B's ready or gone through testing and all the rest of it, we can launch that. We don't have to wait for all of it. The Hulu on Disney Plus had to launch, so therefore they had to get it all kind of ready. Babak says, do you think Disney would change the rest of Disney Plus to a green color, or keep them separate to show the difference between them? I think the whole point of the blue and green coming together to create teal was about them psychologically merging the two together. They are creating that connection of green with Disney Plus. They are doing this on purpose, so that you associate Disney with a green streaming app. You've already associate Hulu with them. The blue, I think, was better. I preferred the blue to the teal, but I can see how with the other streaming services, you're going to want the green is so different from Netflix and Max and Apple that it stands out, and I think that's probably a good thing. Kelly says, "What are your thoughts on the launch of Hulu on Disney Plus?" I think it went all right. I think there was still a lot of questions with how they did it. I did not think that the way they did it in terms of just turning it on was a good thing. I feel like their promotion before it and after it was a little bit lackluster. We've seen quite a few comments on our social medias in our group, etc., of people that, like someone going like, why is the Omen on my Disney Plus? This is not for children. And it's like, this has been going on for years now. But it's a thing of like, is no matter what Disney did, would have ever actually got through to this until it actually happened, and they just got to bite the bullet and kind of get through it. I do think they should have advertised this a little bit better. I think they should have launched, with a. I mean, it's like the parental controls things. I mean, they did that whole thing last year with the launch of Deadpool and Daredevil and stuff. But I don't know. I feel like the way that they launched, they could have helped themselves with a little bit more notice. Keenan, we did that one. Elias says, when were those? Did I do that? I'm just wondering if I've clicked on these many too many times. I'm just going to try and finish off the last of these pre-done questions, and then we'll jump back into the live chat. Bubbock says, could shows like Alaska Daily and the company keep return to Disney when licensing deals expire? I mean, they could do. I feel like if they got removed and they were written off, they might not be allowed to come back, or they might not be allowed to come back for a certain amount of time. Say, like, I don't know. Say I've heard someone say, like, when Disney Plus releases a series, it's licensed for like 10 years. So say, like, I don't know. Let's just pick like the Alaska Daily. So when Disney licensed that to Hulu, because it's all done different departments and stuff, there might have been like a 10-year or a 5-year or a 3-year or a 1 year, whatever it is. Until that, and that got written off. So I would imagine that they can't bring it back until that deal is over. Kaylee says, what are your biggest takeaways from Disney shareholder meetings? What's next for Bob Iger? I think this week was a good week for them. I think they were able to squash the Pouts situation. I think they were able to get that there. I do wonder, like, did they do that on purpose to, like, literally squash the guy into the ground to be like, to anyone, just do not come for us, basically piss off. We will, I mean, he got like 90+%. I mean, yeah, they did not get on what they wanted. They felt a little bit strong of how they were doing it. The whole thing with them, they're making deals with Florida to get rid of that. I do feel like his questions and stuff of what he was talking about on CNBC and at the launch party and stuff of like the woke problem is like, just shut. If you're trying to get Disney out of like all of this, stop talking about it. Just stop. If you want to lower the level, just stop bringing it to attention. And I think that's something like that. If you want to, that's the kind of thing. If he talked about the fact of quietening the noise and stuff, and then they go and do that, and like, well, that's not doing it, and just whatever. I think the meeting overall, there wasn't a lot newsworthy from the point of view, like when I'm sitting there afterwards of like, okay, what have I got to write about in terms of like what's important news? There was no big heavy hitters. There was no, this movie's coming out, this is coming out, this is coming up. It was very lacking in that. It feels a little bit like we got what we needed to do, and that was the point of this meeting, and now we're moving on. Elliot says, what were your thoughts on about Disney theme parks from a business perspective? I am a huge Disney park fan. I have been to all of the theme parks around the world. So I've been to all of the resorts. I am a big lover of the parks. And there's this kind of weird thing of, the parks keep making money. People keep going to them. And they're an amazing place to go, but they are very expensive. And they've got more and expensive. I do feel there's this weird thing of like, from the point of view as a Brit, going to Disney has always been a little bit of like a once in a lifetime holiday. Something that you do rarely, if you win money or if you say this is something that you do. If you do it more than once in your life, you are extremely lucky to do it, especially if you're coming from the UK. And that was always the way it was to go to Disney. Disney was not something that you could do very regularly. And I think at some point in like the noughties, and then in the sort of 2010s, etc., it became a little bit like going to Disney was almost a little bit like just going to your local park, and locals especially. I don't know if it was just because of social media and stuff, but locals, maybe more so with Disneyland than kind of, but there was a lot of people going to the parks, like going there every week, going there constantly, and almost like weirdly, it was like, and people in the UK would go maybe once a year, so some people go more than that, and then they can, I can't afford it, and it's like, was this ever sustainable? Was this ever sustainable to go? And it's like anything, if you go somewhere constantly, year in, year out, week in, week out, month in, month out, you're going to get bored of it. If you go to the same holiday resort in Spain every year for 20 years, it's going to have less of an impact each time you go. And there's some people like that. Some people like that thing. Personally, I like to see other places. I liked at the minute I'm in a zone where I'm really enjoying cruising and stuff, and so I'm doing different types of Disney holidays. But I think, like, from a business perspective, I think it's like right now it feels like they pushed really, really hard with the pandemic of trying to, I would almost say, trying to put a little bit of a halt on same people going constantly, because they don't make as much money from those people. If you go to Disney, I know for a fact that, like, if I was going yearly or every 6 months or so, I'm not buying as much merch. I'm not doing, I'm not eating in the same ways because you're going there. But if you're going there on a once in a lifetime or anything like that, you spend so much more money because it's a once in a lifetime and you do it. It does feel like we're starting to see a little bit of a change. I think this past week, like here in the UK, they launched the free dining is now back, which was a really good way of, like, while we went a couple of years in a run, because when they started adding in the food, it really made a big impact on, like, that side of things, of how if you had your food included, suddenly then going to the parks and stuff wasn't quite so bad because you were covering most of your food. So that was a good way of going. I'm glad to see that back. I think for us, especially for Brits, it makes a lot of sense. Just going to the parks is just so more expensive. I know. I mean, I'd planned to go to Disneyland this year, but I'm probably not going to. I'm 99% sure I'm not going to be going. The costs of it have just got stupid. The prices at Disneyland in California, the hotels are like $400-500 a night. It's like, this is just not worth it. It's just not worth it. I love going, but the costs are just ridiculous. But let's see if we've got anything here about the theme parks. Let's see what we've got. Oh, we've got quite a few questions here. Super chat. Chris said Hulu on Disney Plus is good, but it would have been good if they had the rights to add everything on Hulu, like CBS shows like CW. I do think with this is very tricky. Some of the stuff you got to remember as well. Hulu's been around for so long; they've got licenses that probably go back before Disney Plus launched. And say you've got a show like, I don't know, say like you got the CW show, and they've got it licensed until 2025. And so therefore it's not licensed. They can't put it onto Disney Plus because it's not licensed. So Disney go to CBS and says, can we have CW's show or something like that? And they go, yeah, we want this much. And they're like, well, we don't want to pay. We'll pay you a bit more, but and they're like, no, we'll just keep it. You kind of got to look at it a little bit more like the business point of view of going, is Comcast, for example, holding Disney to ransom and going, oh, you can have our stuff, but we want lots more money. And therefore Disney's like, nah, screw it. We don't want it. We it's going to be going eventually. It's not our stuff. We don't want it. So I think there's a fine line. I know everyone like looks at it and goes, the simple truth is the legal technicalities stop them from being able to do it for everything. They've got as much as they can. They probably could have done more, but they would have cost more. And especially if I would imagine if it's short term, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. It looks like Warner Brothers and like Sony a little bit more in line with it, but the Comcast stuff makes sense that all that stuff eventually is going to get removed. A big hello and welcome to Jim. Thank you so much for becoming a YouTube channel member. It really helps. Really does help when you do it. Unilag says Disney World password sharing crackdown for real. It's happening. And Bob Iger talked about this this past week during the investors call. He confirmed the day after in the interview it's going to be starting in some countries in June, and then it will start its full rollout in September. You got to remember, Netflix added over 20 million subscribers by doing this. Max is going to be doing it. They're all going to be doing it. They're all going to start clamping down on people sharing their passwords with their friends and family. I'm definitely in I can see it from both sides on this here, as someone that has shared my password with a family and who, it's like, okay, I've done it. I'm in that. I will put my hands up and be like that. And I can see why people do it. I can see why people are upset. And, I see people going, oh, I can't afford it and I can't do this. And it's like, that's ultimately, you can look at it the other way and go, if they can't afford or something like that, then that's up to them and what is their finances and it's their but I think there's also this weird thing of sharing an account became almost like Netflix had turned it into this thing of like, sharing is caring, and they turned a blind eye for years while they were growing, and you're like, yeah, everyone do it. It doesn't matter. As many people use it as possible because we're growing. Use it. And then they were like, yeah, now we want money from you all because you're all using our stuff and stealing it. And they're like, and people were annoyed with them and changing it, and Disney will get the negative feedback, and some people are like, I'm gonna quit. And the question is, it's not so much of they've quit. How long do they quit for? Do they come back? But more importantly, do both families end up eventually coming back? That's going to be the big thing. It's not about that initial thing of I've cancelled it and you go a month or two without it. But if you both end up coming back to it, or in some cases, I think there's even 2, 3, 4 families and they all come back, they're going to. It's catch-22. I think password sharing and account sharing was something that was being abused for way too long, and I think they should have clamped down on it much earlier. I think Disney made a massive mistake in turning a blind eye to it when they first launched it. I think they should have been much stricter when they launched it, so they didn't get into this situation of enabling people to get it. I think that's the big problem. I think by the time Disney Plus launched in 2019, they were much more aware of the situation than and I think they should have been much stricter with it. And I think that's kind of an issue there, but it's definitely real. It's going to be coming. Let's see what other live questions we've got. Let's see what we've got. Right. Okay. So the last question was, here we go. Muppet Don says, this happened to BritBox in the UK. They only shut down the solo app of the website a few weeks ago, and over about a year of it being available, but now it's only. I think it makes sense. I never subscribed to BritBox. I never understood the point of that app. But I think it makes sense to run it like separately, and also start, maybe you're not putting out as many updates on the old one, and you stop investing in it, and you start putting everything into the one that you're keeping, and gradually just keep moving people over. It makes sense to that one. Keenan says, back when Hulu and Netflix were competitors, Disney owned a third of Hulu, and Netflix was licensing Disney movies. At the time, I think actually they didn't even own 33%. They actually only owned 30% because Warner Brothers owed 10%, Comcast owed 30%, Disney owned 30%, and Fox owned 30%. But yeah, and now we're making money from Netflix on the side. But that was at a time when, and I think people don't understand this sometimes, of like, linear was still like up here and streaming was down here in terms of money. And what was happening was linear was paying for them, and they were licensing stuff out because streaming money wasn't a lot, and they were fine because linear was still making money. But what was happening is this was happening, and now we've got to this, and now we're kind of like streaming is going above like the other one, and they're all trying to make sure that they're secure for the future. That's why they all went all in on this. But some of them have realized that, unfortunately, they haven't got the big enough chops to do it on a full-time scale. I think that we are going to see some more closures, and that will happen. We did so soon as one there. So there's a higher chance of Disney buying Twitter than buying. And to be honest, you could probably buy Twitter now for probably about $5. The value of it is, it's got so bad. It's got so bad. I'm using it less and less. I just literally just follow a list that I have. I just can't even be bothered with the For You and the. It's just got so unuseful. Aaliyah says, I think Apple and Disney mergers come up because Iger was on the Apple board. I do think that companies have a pinky promise. If Disney's in trouble, Apple will be white. Maybe. I think it's more the fact of it gets attention, and also especially now especially with Twitter, is this engagement baiting, and we're seeing it a lot because especially on Twitter where people get paid for basically stirring up. So if enough people say something and it gets out and everywhere and something goes viral and all the rest of it, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. As long as enough people have seen it, that person gets paid. And so therefore we're really seeing especially on social media, just people saying anything to get views and clicks to get more money, because it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to them. And yeah, it's the amount of disinformation. I think it's got a lot worse on X since he started paying people for making stuff up because it didn't matter. So Cine says, do you think they'll keep content they don't own, like Full House? I think they will continue to license things in the US that people are watching, and maybe in areas which they don't have. I mean, if they do not, if a show like Full House isn't getting enough viewership, they won't continue the license for it, because it'll be like, that's ultimately the point of licensing this content is to generate. I definitely feel like there's an advantage. I'm really seeing this with Hulu and Disney Plus of having licensed content is putting them much more in line with Netflix and much more interesting, like, with random movies coming up. Whereas we don't get that internationally in the same way. We are just getting their content, and it very noticeably how much more the US gets. Muppet Don says, I saw someone earlier getting the Tales of Empire because of women. Yeah, unfortunately, that's just one of those things now. Aaliyah says the teal change around the world is telling. I think that's definitely it. Kelly says, I remember when Disney Plus Hotstar in India briefly had the Hulu hub before it got removed. This might be brought back once Gilo Cinema and Disney Plus Hotstar merges to keep it. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it launches and there is a Disney Plus hub and a Hulu hub. And the Hulu hub allows them to kind of separate that stuff out a little bit more. Does Disney Plus in Japan have the Hulu app? So in Japan, things are very different. Hulu is a separate app which is run by a separate company. They kind of way before Disney kind of brought it, they managed to kind of siphon off and become a separate company. And so therefore Hulu in Japan is a completely different company. None of the Hulu originals anywhere out in America. It is essentially just another streaming service, just with the Hulu name. But Disney did do a deal to offer Hulu with Disney Plus in Japan. So that's the one place where I could see Star maybe carrying on, unless they buy out Hulu. They might just buy it out and be like, look, we need this just to kind of sort this stuff out. Steve says, do you reckon Avengers 5 will get pushed back so it's releasing so closely to Mandalorian and Grogu? Probably not. No, I Star Wars and Marvel are separate enough that as long as there's a month or two between them, I think they'll be fine. Matt says, I still find it hard to find things on Disney Plus, even for the Hulu merge. Yeah, it's not great to find stuff sometimes, unless you're specifically looking for something. The collections of they need better. I mean, even Bob Iger spoke about the fact they need better algorithms, better ways of like doing stuff. They definitely need a better way of finding things like that. And also sometimes even searching for it by name doesn't work. Like The Omen, I did a search for The Omen when they were adding them the other day. I could find 4 out of the 5, even though the fourth one was on there, but you couldn't find it by typing in Omen. You had to type in the code name. Useless. So Susan says, when do you think Disney will notify someone when something is about to leave? I think there has to be a major change to how Disney Plus runs, whether or not that is that when they merge it together or something like that. But it's very weird. Aaliyah says, Cougar with Warner Brothers Discovery has a vampire movie in the works. I wouldn't be surprised if Blade gets cancelled. May only survive if Ali really wants it. And Blade is important for the Avengers film. I would love them to do it. My big problem with Ali doing it as well is his age. I am specifically worried about the fact that by the time this thing comes out, he was much older. I think he's already in his 50s, and it's like I feel like the ship maybe is like 5 years on and we haven't started filming. It's maybe time to let somebody else kind of younger go onto it. The 1976 says, Jalo Cinema and Disney Plus Hotstar, what name do you think will be merged? I think it will just be called Hotstar. The Muppet Don says, do you think Prey 2 will go to cinemas? Yes, it will go to cinemas. Kelly says, Gilo Disney Plus. I don't know if Disney Plus will be in it. Steve says, do you think the Simpsons will get renewed? Yeah, it's getting renewed. That'll keep happening. Even if Fox don't want it, Disney will take it over and carry on. Chris says, do we know when the next season of Only Murders in the Building is coming? All we know is summer. So that is very vague. June, July, August. Babatronic says, do you think that Disney Plus will add Dolby Atmos on the Hulu content? Maybe eventually. The thing is, like here in the UK, if you want to have the Atmos stuff, you have to be on Disney Plus Premium. We have like Disney Plus Premium, Disney Plus Standard, and Disney Plus Standard with ads. So in order to get the Atmos, you have to be on Premium. So that might be why, that might be something that be an issue, because none of that content on the Hulu side is available anywhere else. Muppet Johnson's never watched Grey's Anatomy personally. I'm a Casualty kind of guy. I mean, Casualty's been going. I mean, I used to watch that about 2 decades ago, not 20 decades ago. In Malaysia and Indonesia, the Disney brand has been hit hard to boycotts, so now it seems unable to keep the Disney Plus brand for future. I think the trouble is, it's like in all these different countries and all these different situations and stuff and boycotts. I think the Disney Plus brand will carry on. I think a lot of this is with boycotts and stuff. A lot of it is they just got to weather the storm, just put their heads down and just carry on making great content. I think that is the issue. And I think this whole thing as well of like, ultimately, if it's like with boycott, if it got to that thing where it was that bad, they'd more likely, and if they started losing money on it, they'd just close it down. But I think a lot of this stuff is a case of just moving, they've just got to move on their content. And also, I don't particularly know exactly what's going on in those countries. I need to I'll make a note to look into that a little bit more. But yeah, I think in general, right now, no matter what Disney does, someone's annoyed at them. And I think that's kind of, they're never going to be able to please everyone. And especially in a global market, they are gonna something that happens in one country might not work in another country, and they've got to be a bit more aware of that. But also, the content they create is going to be, there's a balancing line, and maybe they've gone too much one way and they need to pull it back a little bit. I think a lot of this stuff, a lot of the companies are learning essentially the hard way of what is going to work and what isn't. And every country, like you said, has it, and even sometimes even different regions. I mean, you could look at the US and go like, well, that area views it very differently to that area. And I think we're going to see more of that moving forward. Matt says, any news on new shows coming to ABC next fall? Not really. I mean, there's been a few pilots and stuff, but it's probably a little bit too early now for the full season. We'll probably get a little bit more of an update in the summer, usually when they do their press tour. But right now, they're focused on this season, of Grace. I mean, we know some of the stuff that's going to be returning. I mean, we've heard, for example, Will Trent, 911, Grey's Anatomy, that will be coming in. I would expect a lot less. I definitely expect a lot less stuff dropping onto ABC moving forward. Boba Charlie says, do you think Warner Brothers Discovery will close Discovery Plus? I think it will close down eventually. I think they'll eventually get one that went in. The 976 says, I like Malaysian Disney Plus Hotstar to eventually merge to the main global Disney Plus. But look, I can't. I mean, I would assume that eventually Disney Plus Hotstar in countries like Malaysia would just be rebranded just to Disney Plus eventually. Aaliyah says, my mum does not have Hulu, so she does not have the Hulu title. I did not experiment with searching for Hulu shows. Yeah, I think they might have done it a little bit differently with how they said they were going to do it. Matt says, I see Disney Plus remove the A to Z selection. They might not be able to do it with the addition of Hulu on Disney Plus. There might just be too much stuff, and it's causing loading issues and database problems and stuff, because there's a lot of stuff. Chris says, now you need a teal Disney Plus t-shirt. Yeah, it's a little bit I have I won't lie, because I brought them for the D23, so I have it here, but I actually have 5 of these printed because of going to D23. So I do actually have multiple ones. It's not always the same t-shirt. I have 4 of the teal rebranding was not something I had seen happening. So therefore it did catch me a little bit off guard. I am sort of slowly moving a bit more greener as a whole. But yeah, I'm still not 100% sure quite what I'm going to do. But yeah, I think I don't know. It's a teal. I'm still not convinced on teal as a color yet. So he says, have you seen the Invincible series? No, I don't have Prime Video at the minute. I don't buy. I stopped buying stuff from Amazon because I didn't need to buy anything from Amazon, and for one or two shows, it just wasn't worth it. So I haven't seen it. Muppet Don says, not that hard to set parental controls. It's not to you, but there are a lot of people out there that really do struggle with technology and not understanding things and just basically leaving everything on default because they don't want to break it or they don't understand what they're doing. Seen comments today on our Facebook group of people, not liking having it. How do I change my profile? It's like, I mean, we kind of look at it and go, these are basic things, really. But in some way, Disney Plus set themselves up for being like, the amount of people that still think Disney Plus is just for kids and it's safe for kids. And it's like, it is, but you have to do a little bit of work. And unfortunately, they don't understand it. But there's a lot of people that do not understand it or get what's going on and just leave it all to default because they don't understand what to do. It's a shame. I think Disney should have had a much better... When Star launched, there was like videos and emails and stuff going out with videos of how to change your parental controls. They did it last year with the launch of Deadpool and Daredevil. But unfortunately, they just never seem to do it with the Hulu on Disney Plus stuff. Elias says the kids won't see it on the profiles now if they did their kids' profiles correctly. I think there's a thing as well of like, you've got the Disney Junior profile, which is like really locked down. And then you've got your settings for like 10, 12, 7, etc. But also there is other issues that have come to light of some parents don't necessarily want, they might want them to have access to some movies and some shows, but they don't want access to everything in there. And I think at the 14 level, it starts becoming a bit tricky of like having that control. It would be maybe nice if they had a little bit more parental controls, a bit like Netflix, where you could have the parent could have probably a little bit more control over what they. So if you did not want your kid to watch a particular series or film, you could set that in there. Disney doesn't have that like Netflix. I think they could do with it. It's just these kind of things. It's a major technical. It's probably a lot bigger technical and it would cost millions of pounds to implement. But probably in the long run, it would have been a lot better from the point of view. But again, if they make it too complicated, people get turned off from it. Matt says, I heard Toy Story 5 is coming out. What are your thoughts on it? I mean, I liked the first 3. The 4th was okay. I like Toy Story. More Toy Story is cool. I've got no real problem with it. Keenan says, I remember reading a book about how he opened a Disneyland, and when a kid saw him, Walt Disney told him to keep it secret and gave the kid. Yeah, I can imagine that. Well, he was doing like his Disneyland show, so people there. So Cena says, do you think Disney will keep stuff that they don't own on the app, like Full House, French Eventually, anything that's licensed could eventually be removed, unless it's really popular and they're relicensing it. Matt says, Tim Allen is doing another sitcom. What are your thoughts on it? Fine. Give it, yeah. I mean, he's popular. I liked Home Improvement. Give it a go. If people like it, it will carry on. If people don't like it, it will get cancelled. Just give it a whirl. Candice says, I did notice that Hulu on Disney Plus, they cleaned up the stations and networks to be primarily Disney owned or adjacent. Fox is there. It made sense with Fox, as you said, because they got an active deal. They've cleared a few of them out. I think that's for the good. I think it makes sense for them to focus on their own core stuff. And as you said, Fox, they've got a multi-year. There's enough stuff dropping on Fox nearly daily that, I think it makes sense for them to have that hub. So Cena says, do you think Disney Plus will ever stop letting you share password like what happened? Yes. They don't want you sharing your passwords with people outside of your household. They want the money. Let's just be pure and simple. They want your money. You sharing your password or your account with your mum or with your sister or your son or whatever, and they live in a different household, they look at it and go, they should be paying, and they want them to have their own account. Account sharing is a weird thing of like we've kind of got this weird thing of we've been made to feel like that was okay, and ultimately from their point of view it isn't, but we were essentially led to believe it was a good thing to do and it was fine and we didn't have a problem with it. And of course now it's like, nope, that's not what it is. Mama said, what are your predictions for CinemaCon? So Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, they might get to see it. Also, trailers for Inside Out, maybe the one that they announced, maybe the clip that they put out the other day for the shareholders. Maybe a bit of a better, maybe the full trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine, and maybe Alien Romulus, something a little bit. But I don't think they're going to go much beyond. Maybe a trailer for Moana 2, maybe, but that's about it. It's mainly this year. Matt says, do you think Disney would build a new park in a different country? I don't think right now. I don't think they're in a position to do so. They need to spend a lot more money on the countries they're in. They invested heavily in China. I mean, whether or not they were to put a theme park, maybe if they were to do one in the Middle East, might be a lot of theme parks being built there and have been got like Ferrari World, Warner Brothers have got one there. You've got DreamWorks have got one. Yeah, a lot of theme parks being built in that region. So that might be it. And got whole other regions as well where they haven't got one, like South America. But a lot of it's going to be down to just like why they probably wouldn't put one in India, because the amount of money they would make would be so much less. So that's a bit of a problem. Chris says, I heard that most shows on Disney Plus is classic shows. How can they fix it so newer shows be watched by now? I heard that most shows on Disney Plus is classic shows. How can they fix it so newer shows be watched by more? I would say that most of the viewing is actually newer shows. I mean, you do get like the bingeable shows people are watching en masse and so on. I think a lot of it as well, like, is the amount of episodes that can help kind of put things in. But yeah, I think a lot of the time people want to watch new. They don't. You might be a favorite and you might want to go back and watch it, but that is drastically less. So some shows like comedies and stuff that you will go through and do it. But if you're watching like Criminal Minds or NCIS, Grey's Anatomy, there's 20 plus seasons of them, so that the hours just keep clocking up, so it keeps registering that there's a lot of hours. Babatronic says, I feel like Warner Brothers Discovery's for sale is just talk. I think he could sell bits off. Right, let's got a few more questions here. Chris said, oh yeah, we did that one. Leon says Disney should keep all of its own IP on Disney Plus. Sharing with other companies is bad for business and only drives subscribers away. I mean, it's fair enough that that's one way of looking at it. That you could look at it in sharing content drives people away from Disney Plus and builds up other streaming services. So that makes sense. But counter argument to that is you get extra revenue for these shows that have already done the work for Disney Plus. And if you're licensing them out to reach a larger audience, because that's a key thing that we're seeing a lot with Netflix, of license out an old show and it can really drastically increase the viewership numbers. There are advantages and disadvantages to both for sure. Mapadon says, do you think Toy Story 5 and Moana are releasing too closely to each other? Well, Moana in 2026 is live action. So they are, one's animated, one's live action. I do think they are maybe a little bit close. I would probably have them a little bit further apart, but they are a whole month. But yeah, I would probably not do them that time. Right, last of the live questions. If you've got any more, put them in now. I've just realized I have gone half an hour late. Just a few. It's almost like I didn't do a show last week. So Suna says, do you think Fox shows like New Girl, Glee, and Community will be on Netflix again in the future, or do you think Boy Meets? I don't know about Boy Meets World. I would now start to think of like Hulu and Disney Plus as one. Maybe don't necessarily think of them as two separate platforms now. They're just one. New Girl, Glee, and Community, they could get licensed to. I don't think they will do. I think the only reason Netflix is getting some of those shows is because of that Grey's deal that they did. But I wouldn't think so. Kelly says, I don't see Disney building a new park from scratch. However, I could see them expanding Disneyland, Tokyo Disneyland, to include the Avengers campus. The only thing is, it depends on how the Marvel is viewed in Japan, because that is another big issue. Not all franchises are equal in every country, so that's definitely an issue. Because I know in like Shanghai when we went, there was like nothing Star Wars, because Star Wars wasn't really that established there. Whereas like in Hong Kong, they had quite a bit more stuff there. Matt says, how long do you think Hulu will be a standalone app? Till next year at least. I think it'll be next year. So Sina says, what shows will I like if I love Glee? I I don't know. Was there anything else like that? I mean, I would think first off, maybe the Ryan Murphy shows might be something if you like that kind of style. But musical stuff, maybe give High School Musical, the series, a go. Random thought from Caleb. Now that Gunter has dropped the IC title, he's going to move on to the world title scene. The main picture is going to be meets. I was quite surprised with him losing. I thought he wasn't. I think it would be good for him if he's going to need to go into a baby face. So if Cody needs an opponent, that he could be a good heel for the summer. Kelly says, disagree with Leon. Sharing is caring. It will be fun. I love that Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise is on Hulu on Disney+. Kelly says, password sharing should be on other streaming services other than Disney Plus and Netflix. They're all going to do it. Max is doing it. They're all going to do it. Caleb thinks ended 2026. Any updates on the King of Hill revival? Haven't heard anything on that one. Last question from Susuna. When do you think the Hulu standalone app will be gone? I would think by next year. Right. On that note, a big thank you to Derek, Chris, and Uniloud for your super chats. Thank you so much for that. It really makes a massive difference. Thank you very much to Jim for being a new member. Thank you for that. And also a big thank you to Chris for being a member for 8 months. Always glad. Yeah, that is fantastic. So again, thank you for all of your super chats and make things. I'll be back next week with another live Q&A. Again, if you're a patron or YouTube channel member, check out this week's exclusive What I've Been Watching video. I'll have another one up next weekend for you guys. Look out for questions coming up later in the week. Obviously, check out what's on DisneyPlus.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter. Bookmark, favorite, join the mailing list, whatever way to keep up with the latest. That's always a great way. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. Hope you all have a fantastic evening. And if you're going to be watching WrestleMania this evening, I hope you really, really enjoy it. I know I'm looking forward to it. But on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Later.